So I want you to imagine, just for a second, surviving this absolutely horrific car crash.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you walk away from the twisted metal, and miraculously, you don't have a single scratch on you.
Which is pretty unbelievable right
Oh.
there.
But here is the crazy part. As you are standing there on the side of the road, like looking at the wreckage, you decide that the very first thing you need to do is give away your highly lucrative nightclub.
Wait, what?
Yeah, your nightclub, your chain of restaurants, your entire business empire, and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's just insane.
It is. You decide you're going to abandon all of it just so you can go sit in a sparsely furnished room and, like, drink plain tea.
Talk about the ultimate pivot. It defies every single instinct we are taught to have about, success and security and basically how to build a good life.
It really, really does. And that jarring scenario, that is actually the starting point for today's deep dive.
I'm very ready for this.
Awesome. Because we are looking at this radical, completely alternative roadmap to life satisfaction. It is a roadmap that just completely flips a very famous, deeply ingrained Western psychological model entirely on its head.
Right.
And the roadmap comes from an essay. It's titled The Ways Which Meet Life's Needs, and it's written by a philosopher and guide named Yufeng.
Yes, Yufeng's work is fascinating.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand where Yufeng is coming from and, why anyone would just walk away from an empire like that, we really need to look at the baseline of how you and I normally operate.
The standard playbook, basically.
Exactly. I always think of our typical approach to life as being kind of like a video game skill tree.
Oh, I see where you were going with this. You mean like the progression mechanics in a game.
Yeah, exactly. In almost any role-playing game, you start at level 1,
Yeah.
and you just assume you must unlock the basic survival skills first.
Right, you have to gather the resources.
Yeah. Right. You spend hours chopping digital wood and building a basic digital shelter before the game even allows you to think about unlocking the high-level, like, enlightenment or magic skills.
The game literally grays out the top tier.
Yes. You cannot click on it until the bottom tier is completely filled out with all your hard work.
That is actually a remarkably accurate analogy for how modern society structures human ambition. And, it perfectly mirrors the traditional psychological model that Zufeng targets and critiques right at the very beginning of his essay.
Which is, well, we all know it, right?
Yeah, to really grasp his radical approach, we first have to understand that baseline he is arguing against. He points directly to Abraham Maslow,
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
the one and only,
The famous pyramid that literally everyone has to memorize in, like Psychology 101.
the very same one.
Yeah.
So Maslow's widely accepted hierarchy is presented in Zufeng's text as having 6 major categories of needs.
Okay, lay them out for us.
We start at the bottom with physiological needs, then we move up to safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization, and finally, at the very peak, self-transcendence.
Right.
But what Zufeng does in his essay that is so effective is, well, he doesn't just leave them as broad academic categories. He translates those categories into the specific, really exhausting, real-world checklist that this model actually entails.
Because, when you say physiological and safety needs, it sounds very clinical and, I don't know, manageable.
Right, it sounds simple on paper.
But the reality of achieving that is a massive grind.
It is an incredible grind. According to this model as laid out in the text, meeting your life needs requires securing food, water, air, sex, and sleep.
Okay, the absolute basics.
Right. Then you must secure safety, resources, health, and medical care. Then you need assurance of having a job.
I have to stop you there for a second.
Go ahead.
Just the concept of assurance of having a job is it's a lifelong anxiety engine.
Oh, absolutely.
We spend decades just trying to guarantee we won't get fired, But the list keeps going, right?
It does. Once you secure the job, you still need family affection, friendship, love, self-esteem, social status, confidence, a sense of achievement, morality, skills, and creativity.
Wow. It is like a completely impossible scavenger hunt.
It really is.
You spend your entire week just trying to secure the medical care and the job, and then you are supposed to somehow squeeze in self-esteem and creativity on a Sunday afternoon.
And the crucial mechanism here, the ironclad rule of the pyramid, is that it is strictly bottom-up.
Right?
Maslow argued that human needs are hierarchical. Fulfilling the physiological needs must come first. You have to secure the food and the sleep before you can even possess the psychological bandwidth to pursue safety needs.
That makes sense.
And then you have to secure safety before you can genuinely focus on love and belonging. And this goes all the way up to the top, where efforts towards self-transcendence can only truly happen after self-actualization is complete.
So tying it back to the video game, you are literally blocked from unlocking enlightenment until you've successfully secured your social status and your job assurance.
Exactly.
But Shuifeng looks at this sprawling, exhausting scavenger hunt and offers just a really jarring alternative.
Very jarring.
He contrasts Maslow's endless accumulation of societal metrics with his own incredibly specific, extreme physical minimalism.
He essentially throws the entire bottom half of the pyramid in the trash.
He really does. Like, listen to his exact physical requirements for a satisfied life. He states his needs are simply a room with a bed, a desk, and a chair.
Just that.
3 sets of clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, and 2 meals of plain tea and simple food each day.
Wow.
That is the absolute entirety of his material requirement.
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast in the metrics of success. Maslow's model, especially as it is applied in our modern consumer society, demands a complex accumulation of individualistic resources.
Lots of gathering.
Right, you need to personally secure your own medical care, your own job assurance, your own social status. It is heavy.
Super heavy.
Shuifeng strips away all of that individualistic hoarding. But it is important to note that he doesn't just become a hermit in a cave.
Right, he isn't totally isolated.
No, he replaces the material hoarding with a very specific set of environmental and social needs.
Right, he isn't advocating for, isolation. He says he needs to be surrounded by like-minded people who share the same resonance of consciousness.
Yes, that phrase.
Now, that is a bit of a heavy phrase. I interpret resonance of consciousness as being on the exact same mental wavelength as the people around you, so there is, like, zero friction in your daily communication. Am I reading that right?
That is a great way to understand it. It is about a shared frequency.
Okay, cool.
He also states he needs a clean, orderly, and beautiful environment. He needs to be busy every day, but under very specific conditions, sharing everything with everyone, doing everything willingly, and doing absolutely nothing compulsorily.
Oh, wow.
He requires peace, harmony, warmth, and health.
Which honestly sounds beautiful, but also incredibly difficult to find in the modern corporate world,
Nearly impossible.
And then he caps it off with his higher level needs. He says he needs to realize dreams and ideals to understand life, and he capitalizes life in the text, to understand time and space, and to know the ultimate destination ahead.
Let's pause on that capitalized word, life, for a second.
Yeah, what's the distinction there?
In his philosophy, the lowercase life refers to our day-to-day biological existence, paying the bills, eating the meals.
It's a grind.
Exactly. Capital F refers to the grander cosmic phenomenon of existence itself, the spiritual or energetic reality that animates everything.
Okay, I get it. So he just bypasses the entire middle of Maslow's pyramid.
Completely.
He skips the status, the job assurance, the legacy, and goes straight from a bed and 2 meals to contemplating the nature of time and space.
It's a huge leap.
Which brings us back to that car crash. Because, as we established, you don't just wake up one Tuesday and decide to trade a business empire for 2 meals of plain tea. You need a catalyst.
You need a profound disruption. And to understand the mechanism behind Shuifeng's philosophy, we have to look at the life he was living before the crash.
Right.
Because he was not a lifelong monk. He was a highly successful, completely money-obsessed businessman deep in the daily hustle.
The essay details his former empire, and it is extensive.
Tell me about it.
At his most prosperous, he owned 4 separate stores, a nightclub, a bar, and a fast food restaurant.
I mean, just the logistical nightmare of managing a single nightclub and a fast food restaurant simultaneously is staggering.
I can't even imagine. And he didn't stop there. He also held leases on a dancing hall, a restaurant, and a barbershop.
It's just relentless accumulation.
He states his annual net income reached hundreds of thousands of RMB. He was the absolute embodiment of someone rapidly and successfully climbing Maslow's pyramid.
Oh, for sure.
He was securing vast resources, expanding his social status, and achieving, massive outward success.
He was winning the game by the traditional rules. He had built this massive fortress of security around himself.
Right.
But then, the car accident happened. He miraculously survived, but the psychological impact was an absolute shattering of his worldview.
I bet.
This incident exposed the ultimate vulnerability of biological life. It highlighted the utter unpredictability of good and bad fortune.
You can totally imagine the jarring reality of that moment.
Oh, absolutely.
1 second, you are stressing over like the inventory at the bar or optimizing the payroll for the barbershop, and the next second, metal is crushing around you.
It changes everything.
In that fraction of a second, none of those leases matter. The fortress of security just vanishes.
Precisely. It forced a profound structural realization. Feng realized that if you do not first understand life's ultimate value, its purpose, its meaning, and those mysteries of capital life we talked about, then any way you choose to live is fundamentally blind.
Blind because you are walking without a destination.
Exactly. He concluded that without that core, overarching understanding, you can never actually fulfill your life's needs, no matter how many resources you accumulate.
Wow.
The accumulation itself becomes a distraction from the blindness. This realization was so overwhelmingly powerful that he abandoned his entire sprawling business empire to immerse himself entirely in studying the meaning of life.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting because we hear this wake-up call trope all the time in modern media.
Right, the classic movie plot.
Yeah, the wealthy executive has a near-death experience, realizes money isn't everything, and goes to an ashram. But looking at Feng's specific former wealth accumulation, the nightclub, the 4 stores, the dancing hall, it really reminds me of drinking salt water when you're dying of thirst.
Oh, that is an evocative comparison. Walk me through the mechanics of that.
Oh, think about why he was buying those businesses.
Mhm.
He was trying to quench his thirst for security and status, the lower tiers of the pyramid.
Right.
But the more businesses he acquired to secure his needs, the thirstier he got. A nightclub might bring financial security, but it simultaneously brings 100 new anxieties, liabilities, and responsibilities.
Absolutely.
He was drinking salt water, convinced it would eventually quench his thirst, until the car crash physically forced him to stop drinking. It forced him to realize the water itself was the problem.
That is a brilliant synthesis of his realization. The accumulation wasn't solving the underlying need at all. It was aggressively masking the absence of a deeper foundation.
Exactly.
The pursuit of the solution was actually multiplying the problem.
So, having abandoned the salt water, having walked away from the business empire to find a better way, what was the actual framework he developed? Because he decided to literally flip Maslow's pyramid upside down.
This is the absolute core of his philosophy, what he calls his top-down theory.
Okay, let's get into that.
Instead of Maslow's bottom-up approach, where you must exhaustively secure the physical and social before you are allowed to attempt the spiritual, Feng argues we must start at the very top.
Okay, let's break down the terminology he uses here because it can sound a bit abstract.
Sure.
What does the top look like in his model, and what are the lower levels?
He uses a specific progression of concepts to illustrate this.
Yeah.
He says that among things like Tao, virtue, benevolence, righteousness, courtesy, wisdom, credibility, achievements, sorcery, and magical art.
Okay, that's a long list.
Right, but he says if you possess Tao, then everything else is automatically met.
Tao, in this context, representing the ultimate truth, the highest realm of cosmic alignment.
Exactly.
But what does he mean by sorcery and magical art? Like, is he talking about actual magic tricks?
Not literal magic, no. In this philosophical context, magical art or sorcery refers to clever life hacks.
Oh, okay.
It refers to the aggressive manipulation of your environment to get what you want. It is the tactical grinding,
Got it.
networking to get a promotion, optimizing your investment portfolio, figuring out the cleverest way to extract value from a business lease. Those are the lower level pursuits.
Ah, so the magical art is the hustle.
Exactly. And here is Feng's devastating critique of the bottom-up method. He says it is a mathematical trap.
A trap. How so?
If you start from the bottom level and first pursue these lower tier needs, if you spend the best years of your youth chasing resources, status, or mastering the magical arts of the hustle life, is simply too short.
Oh, man. So the clock runs out before you reach the top of the pyramid.
That is the tragedy he is pointing out. By the time you painstakingly fulfill all those lower level needs, by the time you've secured the perfect job, paid off the mortgage, built the social standing, and insured your medical care, you have absolutely zero time or energy left to pursue Tao.
Right.
You are spiritually and physically exhausted.
So it's basically a sunk cost fallacy. You spend so much time building and customizing the vehicle that you never actually go on the road trip.
Yes, perfectly said. So his solution is a total inversion. You must first clarify life's road ahead. You must first understand the ultimate destination of capital L life. His theory argues that once this single ultimate key issue is resolved, all other lower level needs will naturally and readily resolve themselves in order. They will come without seeking them.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, society constantly tells us to grind away our
Oh,
youth.
relentlessly.
We are conditioned to work 60-hour weeks, sacrifice our peace of mind, and delay our happiness, all to earn the right to think about philosophy or truly enjoy life when we retire at 65.
Right, the golden years.
But Suefeng is saying that is a rigged game. You will run out of time. The finish line is just this illusion that keeps moving.
It is a profound challenge to the standard life script. He is essentially saying the pursuit of the foundation is the distraction from the life you're supposed to be living.
Okay, but I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who is dealing with the very real, immediate realities of rent and groceries.
That is fair.
To say start at the top sounds great, but practically speaking, isn't that quite literally like trying to build the roof of a house before you pour the foundation? Like, how do you seek Tao if you are starving or if you don't have a safe place to sleep tonight?
It is the most vital question to ask, and it really tests the durability of his theory. But we have to look closely at what he's actually suggesting.
Okay.
Starting at the top doesn't mean you stop eating or ignore gravity. Remember, his own minimalist list includes 2 meals a day and a room with a bed.
Right, he isn't starving himself. He has the plain tea and simple food.
Exactly. It's less about building a roof in midair and more about realizing you don't actually need to build a mansion.
Oh, wow.
If your goal is simply to stay dry, a basic umbrella works perfectly fine. Starting at the top means defining what dry means to you first, before you waste 20 years laying concrete for a mansion you don't even need.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It is a massive recalibration of desire.
Precisely. If your ultimate purpose is securing the grandest food and the biggest room, if the material is the focal point of your anxiety, you will never be satisfied.
Yeah, you always want more.
You will always just want a bigger room and richer food. But if your focal point is the highest truth, then the crushing anxiety of the lower tiers dissolves.
That's wild.
The lower level needs don't magically disappear,
Right.
but they readily resolve themselves because you no longer require them to be luxurious, status-driven, or complex. You only need the bare biological minimum to support your pursuit of the top.
By answering the biggest existential question first, you just strip all the inflated, ego-driven desires out of the lower needs.
Exactly.
Like, you don't need a 4-store empire to feel safe if your safety is rooted in an understanding of the universe. The mechanism isn't magic, you know? The mechanism is that you just stop wanting the heavy, complicated things.
It fundamentally changes the nature of the needs themselves. They cease to be burdens and become simple maintenance.
Which brings us to a really difficult reality check. Because if someone actually successfully applies this top-down method, what does their life look like at the end?
Right.
If you flip the pyramid, resolve the existential dread first, and strip away all the excess, what is actually left to do?
Suefeng uses his own current status as the proof of concept in the essay. He claims to have successfully fulfilled all levels of his life's needs.
Wow, all of them.
He points out, quite accurately, that this is a feat that is extremely difficult even for a president or a billionaire to achieve.
Well, sure, because the president and the billionaire are still frantically climbing the Maslow pyramid. They are still terrified of losing their legacy and ultimate security. So, if Suefeng has fulfilled everything, what does he do all day? What is the only need he claims to have left?
Because everything is fulfilled, he states he only needs one thing to have fun.
What?
He just does whatever is fun.
Okay, wait. I have to call a timeout here.
I know you would.
To a modern listener, a guy sitting in a sparsely furnished room claiming he has completely bypassed the human struggle and now just has fun all day, that either sounds like a deeply enlightened master or like a grifter who is completely disconnected from reality.
It sounds too good to be true.
How does he justify that? Cured of all anxiety, really.
It is a highly provocative claim, and it definitely triggers our modern skepticism.
Yeah.
But to understand how he justifies it, we have to look at the list of desires he claims have been completely erased from his mentality.
Okay.
It is the removal of these desires that allows the fun.
I assume that means he gave up wanting the private jet or the fancy car, but does he take it further than that?
He takes it to the absolute psychological bedrock. He has eliminated the desire to enjoy the finest food, clothing, accommodation, and travel.
Okay.
He's erased the desire for fame and wealth. He has even erased the desire to leave a lasting reputation.
Whoa.
And perhaps most shockingly, he says he is completely free from the anxieties of birth, senility, illness, and death.
Wow. No anxiety about illness or death, and no desire for a legacy. That last one is huge.
This raises an important question for all of us. I want you to really pause and consider, what it would actually feel like to be entirely free of the desire to leave a legacy.
That's hard to imagine.
In our culture, leaving a mark, being remembered after we die, is often sold to us as the ultimate form of self-actualization. It is the peak of the pyramid.
Because legacy is our ultimate defense mechanism against the fear of death.
Right.
If we build a big enough company or write a famous enough book, a piece of us survives. But Zufeng is saying that if you start at the top and understand capital L life, you don't fear death anymore.
Exactly.
And if you don't fear death, the desperate need for a legacy simply evaporates.
Yes. He highlights how radical it is to replace the heavy, exhausting burden of legacy with pure, unattached fun.
That is so freeing.
And because he operates in this weightless state, he mentions that everyone who communicates with him benefits from that interaction. There is no friction, no ego, so he feels it is entirely appropriate and even assumed that his role now is simply to act as a guide to life and life for others.
So what does this all mean for us? It means that maybe we've been defining luxury completely wrong this entire time.
How so?
Well, we think luxury is a massive stock portfolio or owning 4 stores in a nightclub or, having a building named after us.
Right.
But maybe the ultimate luxury is mental freedom, the absolute luxury of being able to just exist. To just drink a cup of plain tea and genuinely enjoy the moment, because all the terrifying existential questions of why am I here and what happens when I die have already been answered.
It is the luxury of stepping off the treadmill entirely.
Yeah.
Not because you fell off and not because you failed, but because you examined the machinery and realized it wasn't plugged into anything meaningful.
I love that. And that brings us right back to you listening right now. Maybe you are on your commute. Maybe you're sitting at your desk looking at that exhausting calendar we talked about earlier. We've taken this deep philosophical journey, but the application is deeply practical to your Tuesday morning.
It presents a stark, unavoidable choice. Are you currently building your life from the bottom up, just grinding away at the magical arts and hoping you don't run out of time before you get to the good part?
Yeah.
Or can you find a way to start with the ultimate purpose today?
Exactly. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final challenging idea to mull over. It builds on Suifeng's conclusion about just having fun, but it takes it a step further into our modern psychology.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine if a magic wand were waved tomorrow, and suddenly, every single one of your material and social needs on Maslow's pyramid was permanently met.
Wow.
Your bank account is full, your health is flawless, your social status is completely secure.
A total miraculous fulfillment of the bottom of the pyramid.
Right. If that happened tomorrow, would you actually know how to just have fun?
That's a great question.
Or is our modern psychology so deeply addicted to the struggle, so utterly conditioned by the exhaustion of climbing the pyramid, that upon reaching the top, we would desperately invent a brand new pyramid just to have something to climb?
That is a deeply unsettling but necessary question. Are we actually seeking fulfillment? Or are we just terrified of the stillness that comes when the work is done?
Something to ponder the next time you find yourself adding 3 more boxes to your daily checklist. We hope this deep dive gave you a little bit of that resonance of consciousness Feng talked about, and maybe a reason to put down the salt water.
Definitely.
Until next time, take a breath, maybe enjoy some plain tea, and we will see you on the next deep dive.